All right, let's go. All right, Tim, what are we going to talk about today?
Okay, well, Dell's not here, but we still want to talk about Cindy's book, still one on the bestseller list.
Tell us about it.
So Cindy wrote a book, and she talks about growing up as you as a dad, and talks about Poppygate and everything like that. So it's a great book, and it's on the bestseller list. Check it out. It's called The Don Cherry Story by his daughter Cindy, and it's at Amazon.ca. And also, it's slowly going to start getting into chapters. So it's. I
know all the answers.
No, yeah, you didn't know some of the stories. Yeah, that was it. And great pictures. So Cindy has lots of good pictures.
Great pictures.
Yeah,
great pictures in it.
I always like when you get a book and it shows kind of personal pictures, right? And so it was really good. So, Dad, you came over last night and you watched the Carolina Panther game last night. What'd you think?
You gave a summary of the third period.
I've never seen a team get knocked around like that and not push back.
Yeah.
I mean, it was embarrassing. I felt bad for Brindamore.
Yeah, Brindamore, he'd have gone down.
Right. He would have gone down and he would have went down swinging, right? And like Tkachuk, I'm not a big Tkachuk fan. I think he picks the spots a little bit.
Yeah.
But for him to go after Sebastian, and nobody, like, there was three Florida Panthers watching.
Yeah, well, evidently they don't like him.
I don't know. So I just don't get that. And but the funny thing is, you and I were talking that Shanahan. It was a tough player, right?
Yeah. Oh, there was no tougher player than him.
Right. And Detroit had a team of all-stars and couldn't win a Stanley Cup. And they bring Shanahan in.
And they won the cup.
They won the cup. They go to war with Colorado. Yeah. And Berube say no more. Is a tough guy. What Shanahan's team needed.
Let's give Berube one more chance.
Oh, for sure. But what Shanahan's team needed...
Shanahan.
Right. And maybe a Berube thrown in there. And I think what Carolina needed...
Was it Brindamore? It's sad to watch.
Right. And, you look at... Like, when you guys were in Colorado and you were struggling,
When we went down swinging. When I went off the ice, they held their sticks. And I knew it was my last game.
Yeah, in Colorado. But you won 5-0. There was lots of hits and stuff like that. So,
and Pittsburgh was playing?
Pittsburgh, it was in a snowstorm. I remember that, your last game. But I just felt...
We would have had a packed house.
Yeah, if we didn't have that snowstorm. We would have had... That's why I think, Dad, in Colorado, part of them letting you go was that they didn't really want it a success. They wanted to move it to New Jersey.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Halfway through.
They realized, well, if we're getting packed houses and we're winning, we can't, because a year or two after Colorado fired you, they did a midnight run to New Jersey.
Yeah.
They just took all their sticks and everything and just threw it in a truck and went off to New Jersey.
Yeah, I remember that. And they went off to New Jersey. And I think halfway through the season, they wanted to go.
So I want to ask you a quick question. Game one of the Carolina game, a Carolina player, I forget who it was, shot the puck at Marchand. Did you ever see a guy shoot a puck at a guy?
I saw Lafleur shoot a puck at Mike Milbury's face.
Really?
Yeah. And
you better be careful because he hit the net a lot. He didn't hit him, did he?
No, he didn't hit him. He moved his head, but he did shoot at his head.
Wow.
And
Mike did have a tendency to get under people's skin.
Well, Mike, they call him Muldoon.
So, okay, Dad, we're going to take some questions from the internet. So the big question is, Alan G-Man says, one question, Grapes. What happened to the Leafs in Game 7?
I don't know. I just couldn't believe they shot their bolt in the 2-0 game. You know, the game before. I don't know. It's beyond me that the Leafs would play that way.
Yeah. And I think if you asked Berube what happened, he'd say the same thing.
He'd say the same thing. Just unbelievable that they come out that way in the 7th game. But let's give Florida a little credit too. They come out banging and smashing and
when they asked, I don't know if it was Kachuk or if it was Marchand, but he goes, we look at every series as it's going to be 7 games, and we're going to wear you down by the 7th game. And that's what they seem to do with them.
Boy, the 7th game, it wasn't even a contest.
The funny thing is, you look at what they're doing to Carolina, it'll be a sweep.
Yeah.
And the Leafs took them to 7 games.
Yeah. What happened is that the Leafs are in a tough division. They're in a tough division. And to get out of it, they got to go through the...
Well, you either got to go through Tampa or you got to go through Florida, and, before this year, Boston. Yeah. They're all teams that went deep, right? They were all the same type of team when they were at their height. Tampa was kind of like Florida.
Yeah.
And at Boston's height was kind of like at Florida.
Yeah.
And the Leafs just had a tough, if the Leafs got by Florida, I think they'd be dismantling Carolina. Do you think that, they run into Florida twice? Florida's, it looks like they're going to go to the finals anyway. I don't know if they'll win the cup, but they'll go to the finals. Do you just think the Leaf fans and the media are panicking too much? And you just say, look.
They don't give them credit for the teams they run into. And they've run into some pretty good teams.
Right. I mean, the one time they got beat out by Montreal. Carey Price was
unbelievable.
Out of his mind. And now you're running into Bobrovsky, who was playing at his best. They run into Tampa. Vasilevsky was playing at his best.
Yeah.
And Stamkos was a 50-goal scorer. They just do run into tough teams.
They run into tough teams.
Who is going to beat Florida?
Nobody's going to beat Florida.
No, but nobody's going to beat Florida. Right, and so I just think the Leafs fans and stuff, they're panicking.
I saw 20 hits last night there, and they just grind you down. The Panthers just grind you down.
Stephen A, not that one from X says, I get that Stephen A, not the Stephen A on the basketball guy. Should the Leafs let Marner walk, or should they sign him?
They should sign him. There's a lot of teams that want him.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I think that they should sign him and keep him because him and Matthews are best friends.
Yeah.
I would trade Willie from the Leafs, and then, I don't like Matthew Nyes, and I would sign and trade Nyes.
Well,
I don't like Nyes, Dad. I'll tell you why.
Why?
So it was game 5 of the Leafs, remember, at home, and they're getting beat 5-0, right?
Yeah.
And they're down 4 goals in the 3rd period. They're not going to get 5 goals.
They're not going
to win.
No.
So here's a young guy. He's 22, 23 years old. He's not a kid anymore. He's a man. American. Big 6'2". What is he? 6'2". He's supposed to be the big power forward. He did nothing. He could have said, I'm going to go down swinging, and I'm going to drag these guys into the battle. He could have went after, somebody on the team, and he did nothing. And I look and I go, that's not the mentality that you're going to win with.
No.
You always say, when a crusher thinks he's a rusher, he soon becomes an usher.
Yeah. I used to say that all the time.
Okay, Dad, our next question comes from 67 Cup. 67. I guess that's the last time the Leafs won the Cup. Hey, Don, love the podcast. Should the Leafs try and trade Nylander? He seems to have 1 good game and then 2 bad games.
I would trade Nylander.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. It's sad to see a talent like that. He should dominate every game.
He should.
He should.
Yeah, Dad, I got to ask you a question. After the game, Marner comes out and says, we had too many passengers in Game 7. And then Matthews came out and said the same thing. They had too many passengers.
Well, I mean, who were the passengers?
That would be my first question if I was a reporter.
Yeah.
Was, who were the passengers?
Yeah.
I think they were talking about Nylander. I think there's something in the dressing room between the three of those guys. That's my thing. Like, because who else is a passenger?
Yeah. I have no idea who the passenger is. The only thing I can think of is Nylander.
Right. And, you think somebody would ask Berube that. Say, hey, your two top stars have said there was too many passengers. Berube would have said, yeah, including the two guys that said it. Mm-hmm. But you would say, who do you think they're talking about? Like, to me, that was a question that should have been asked.
And I think it was Nylander. I really do believe it was Nylander. Well, I want to congratulate Dale Hunter and the London Knights on winning the OHL championship again.
Again.
And
they won. I think they won against.
They reload.
London never rebuilds.
They just reload.
Yeah, and I think they won. They won last night in. They won last night in the Memorial Cup.
Tell that story about.
Mark, when we saw him. Yeah. I got to say, Mark Hunter, he was the hardest working GM in the OHL.
Well, I used to see him at all the games.
All the games. And the one thing that separated Mark Hunter from the other GMs was Mark would go to games where there wasn't first round picks.
Yeah.
Like he'd go see middle, because to see who he's going to take in the middle, right? And you would never see a GM at a Markham Islander game. Hate to knock Markham, but he would be at the games watching it. So we went to the game. We saw him right after Mark and Dale won the World Junior. They won the gold medal, the World Juniors.
Tell that story.
So we're at Icelands in Mississauga, and again, it's kind of a nothing game. And I bet you there was only the parents were there, and Mark Hunter was there with a scout, and they had just won the World Juniors in gold. So he went up. You went up, and you said, "Hey, Mark, congratulations! Winning the gold. You and Dale, way to go." And Mark goes, remember we lost the first game to the Russians 6-0. And we go, yeah. He said it was in, I don't know if it was a London paper or a hockey news that said, he goes, the headlines were Mark and Dale Hunter, the most overrated minds in hockey.
It really bothered him because he brought it up.
He brought it up,
He brought it up.
Yeah. But, so they won, and they won last night, so I think they're on their way. And then Willie Desjardins is with the Medicine Hat Tigers. Yep. They're in. And the Moncton Wildcats and Rimouski are in. So you won a Memorial Cup, right?
Yeah, I won a Memorial Cup. Barrie Flyers.
Barrie Flyers, yeah.
Yeah, we only lost one game. And I remember Hapham saying, I would like to win 4 straight. And we lost the game. I never forgot that.
A lot of people say that the Memorial Cup's the hardest trophy to win.
Well, it's the hardest trophy to win because... you
only get 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're a rookie, 4 years. And you got a goal, didn't you, in the final game?
I got a goal in the final game, had a fight in the final game, and...
You're assist away from a Gordie Howe hat trick.
And going off the ice, I remember Hextall's dad giving us heck. And the game is over, and we shook hands and everything like that. I don't know. I guess I must have shook hands, and he's still giving us heck going off the ice. I couldn't get over that. It shows what a competitor he was.
Okay, Dad. Before we go, Edmonton's 1-1. They were up 3-0 in the first game, and they had 3. I remember I always watched the game. And you hated guys giving slashing penalties and hooking penalties.
Hooking penalty. Oh, you really hurt him. You really hurt him. Boy, he's holding his ice on his... I hated slashing.
Yeah. You said, well, like if it was Mike Milbury, if he took a slashing penalty, it was a slashing penalty. It was, he'd break a stick over a guy. Game three back in Edmonton. So how do you think the Oilers are going to do?
Well, I think the Oilers are going to win, and it'll be the Panthers and the Oilers, and it'll be for the Stanley Cup. And I don't know who's going to win that one. You won't push the Oilers around like they did Carolina.